بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين جل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف اللهم أخرجني من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمني بنور الفهم اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. Alhamdulillah, we have tawfiq to continue our study of Mafatihul Hayat by Ayatollah Jawadi Amuli. We call this series Islamic Lifestyle. In the last few sessions, we are talking about relations inside the family. Last week, we talked about what a husband should observe with respect to his wife. Today we want to talk about what a wife should observe with respect to her husband. My request is that people listen to both, not to one of them unless they want to understand what they should do, not that what the other party has to do. So it's good that I always listen to what a husband has to do, but it's not very good for me to listen to only what wife has to do. Okay. So now we want to start with moral and sometimes also legal requirements for a wife. First of all, as you know, whether it's for men or women, Islamically, our first assumption is marriage. So marriage is a very important part of Islamic Sunnah conduct. But we are aware that maybe some people want to marry, but it doesn't work for them. So we don't want to say, under all circumstances, you have to marry, even if it's, to marry a person that's going to make you mad, No. But as long as you have choice, as long as it's fitting into the general guidelines that we have, for us, marriage is the first assumption. There is a beautiful hadith here that دخلت امرأة على أبي عبد الله عليه السلام. A lady, a woman, went to Imam Sadiq عليه السلام. فقالت أصلحك الله إن امرأة متبتلة. He said to Imam Sadiq عليه السلام, أصلحك الله. He prayed for Imam عليه السلام. May Allah make your condition the right condition. I am a woman who is mutabattila. Tabattul, in the Quran we have tabattal il Arab. Means I am a person who has segregated and, distanced herself from dunya and in particular from marriage. I want to be celibate. I don't want to marry. إني متبتلة. Imam alayhi salam said, وَمَا التَّبَتُّلُ عِنْدَكَ. What do you mean you are mutabattil? Because انقطاع إلى الله is very good. Islamically, we all should try to detach ourselves from anything other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. إِلَهِ حَبْلِي كَمَالَ الْإِنْقِطَاعِ إِلَيْكَ. Yeah? تَبَتَّلَ رَبِّكَ تَبْتِيلًا. But what you mean by tabattul? Do you mean you have no interest in dunya? Okay, this is good. But if you mean you are not going to marry, then this is not accurate. قالت لا أتزوج. This woman said, I don't marry. Means I don't want to marry. قال ولما. Imam alayhi salam said, why? So gave her a chance to explain. Maybe she has a reason. Maybe she has a good reason. For example, she has to, exceptional circumstances, have to take care of, for example, parents, whatever, and there is no way to marry, for example. قال ألتمس بذلك الفضل. She said, I don't marry because I have, a kind of plan. I have planned it. I want to seek al-fadl, al-tamisu. I'm seeking al-fadl. I want to get some merit. So I think if I marry, in my words, then I have to spend my time and energy on family, on husband, on children, on in-laws. I want to save all that time and energy for my relation with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Instead of, letting everything, become a burden on me, I want to keep myself free for ibadah and, this type of thing. فقال, Imam alayhi salam said, انصرفي. Change your mindset. Return from this kind of decision. فلو كان ذلك فضلا لكانت فاطمة عليها السلام أحق به منك. If this was merit, if this was the right thing to do, Lady Fatima should have done it before you do it. إنه ليس أحد يسبقها إلى الفضل, because no one can precede Lady Fatima in merits. This hadith in Al-Kafi. So if there was a person who was supposed to not marry and just do ibadah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Lady Fatima should have done it. So what we understand from this hadith is that you should not plan for not marrying and saying that I don't want to marry because I want to dedicate all my life, my time, my energy to my religion, to my faith, to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But when you marry, you shouldn't think that, okay, now I marry, everything will be sorted out. You have to work hard. Sometimes it's easier not to marry and remain pious, sometimes. So I always make this, like joke that we have in hadith, Man tazawwaja faqad ahraza nisfa dinih falyattaqillah fi nisfil akhar. Whoever marries has secured half of his faith, but must be careful, must be pious with respect to the other half. So I make this humorous comment, I say, you have secured half of your faith, but you have endangered the other half. Because now you have lots of things to consider. When you were not married, it was in some sense easier. But in Islam, we don't go after easy options. We say, okay, we don't marry, it's easier. We have to go what is better for us. So, those who marry should not think just because they have married, mashallah, they are all right. No. Now there are lots of things to observe, as we have been talking. But it's not also acceptable and recommended that we don't marry because we want to be in an easier situation and focus on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, more than expecting us to worship Him, wants us to be a good mu'min inside a network of relations. Yeah? Allah's expectation from us is not that I become an abid and zahid in a corner. Allah wants me to be an active, a struggling mu'min in the middle of lots of responsibilities. Even if I do 80% here, is better than 100% just ibadah. And I don't have to be careful about my wife, husband, in-laws, children, neighbors, colleagues, community, politics, economy, world crisis. Okay, it's very easy to focus on ibadah in a cave. Maybe actually that person can, even on the day of judgment, much better than me. I'm not underestimating them. But I have to go to this race, I have to go to this challenge and try to get the results. But even here, if I get some success, is better than greater success in that scenario of, easy environment. Again, we are not generalizing, we are not underestimating people who dedicated themselves to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in different traditions, and we need people who are totally dedicated to ibadah. I always appreciate, in today's world, especially monks and nuns who have dedicated themselves, because we need such strong testimonies. But I'm saying, generally speaking, Islamic way is that we should go through a normal process of living inside the society with lots of relations that need our attention. In a hadith, again in Al-Kafi, it says, Naha Rasulullah an-nisa'ah an yatabattalna wa yu'attilna anfusahunna min al-azwaj. Rasulullah prohibited women to become mutabattal, means not to marry, and say no to the people who propose them marriage, to say, no, we don't want to marry at all. One of the things that we find in Islam, as you know, is when something is known to be good, don't delay. Yeah? سارعوا إلى مغفرة من ربكم وجنة عرضها السماء. In Islam, to rush is not good. Yeah? You shouldn't rush. But to do right things as early as possible is not to rush. Yes? Allah said to Musa alayhi salam, Ma a'jalaka ya Musa. Oh Musa, why you came so early? He said, appointment with Allah. He said, Ajiltu ilayka rabbi litarda. I came earlier because you would be pleased with me. So this is why, for example, we say salat at the beginning of time. Yeah? So we don't rush, but we should not delay doing good things, because opportunities may go away, or problems can happen. And anyway, it's better to do good things in the first right time. Yeah? So based on this general principle, marriage is the same. If a woman receives a good proposal in the right time, I'm not saying too early. Although in our hadith, for example, there are some indications that maybe if we want to take them literally, people say it's too early. Like, for example, that it's good for a man that his daughter would not have a monthly cycle in the father's house. Maybe today this is too early. Yeah, so I don't think we should take these things literally. What is important is that when it's the right time, is it 18 years, is it 20, is it 16, is it 25, I don't know, because things can change based on the culture, geography, biology of people, climate. Many things can affect. What is important is that when it's the right time for marriage, you should not delay. If you have a good case, this is Islamically very obvious. But we don't fix time. We don't say this is the age that you must get married. Then Ayatollah Jawadi Amali talks about responsibility of wife with respect to her husband. For example, hadith says, Wal mar'atu, this is from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Irshadul Qulub. Wal mar'atu ra'iyatun ala ahli bayt ba'laha wa waladihi wa hiya mas'ulatun anhum. A lady a wife is responsible for the household and children of her husband. Of course, they can be her own children also, or maybe husband has children, I don't know, from before. But anyway, this house is your house and you are responsible for it. Feel responsible. Don't think it's for your husband. Maybe this legally is not in your name, but it doesn't make difference. You are going to be asked about the way you have looked after this household. Of course, we talked about responsibility of husbands towards their wives, before, and we are this session talking about wife towards husband. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in a famous hadith in Al-Kafi, volume 5, page 508. This is why, there's a reason why I mentioned page number and volume also. So he says, had it been possible that I would ask a human being to do sajda for another human being, لو أمرت أحدا أن يسجد لأحد. In Islam, we don't do sajda for anyone other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even we don't do sajda for our maraj, for our parents. We don't do sajda for anyone. But if it was possible to ask someone to do sajda, one case would be this. Maybe this is not the only case, but this hadith mentions this. Because I think if it was possible, you should have done it for your teacher, for your father, mother, all this. But at least this is the one case. لو أمرت أحدا أن يسجد لأحد لأمرت المرأة أن تسجد لزوجها. I would have said to a wife to prostrate before her husband. If it was possible. Of course, not possible. Of course, what type of husband? Must be a mu'min, a kind, caring husband. This is not to be taken again literally, because definitely in Islam we don't have any person other than Allah who deserves sajda. It means if there was a way to say how much respect you should have for your husband, I would have said in this way, I would have used this analogy, that you should have maximum respect among people for your husband. This is very good for your spirituality, because I always say this also, sometimes people get it wrong. They think this means that husband is better than wife. No. Maybe in the sight of Allah, this lady is much better than the husband. Even if he's mu'min, maybe she's more higher in rank. These are responsibilities for the general good of the family and society. For example, you have to listen to your father. Does it mean your father is more pious than you? No. You can be the most pious person. You can be a marja, but if your father says, come with me to this place, you have to go with him. Unless it is a wrong place, But in general, you have to listen to your father, even if you are more knowledgeable, more pious than your father. You have to listen. So when we say you have to obey, you have to show respect, it doesn't mean that you are lower. This is a different mentality from what normally people think. This means that even if you are a person that is much, much better than your husband, but for the general good of the family and for your own progress, show this respect to your husband. Not because of what he deserves, because of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is expecting from you as your sign of dedication to the cause of family. This is your jihad. This is your struggle. I know it's not easy. If it was easy, we wouldn't say this is jihad. It must be difficult, especially when the husband is not a good husband. You know, I know if a husband is a good husband, most of wives are happy to do everything for them. They are happy to, sacrifice everything for their good husband. But sometimes either they are not good or there is no harmony, whatever, This is actually when it becomes important. If my husband is like, Amir al-Mu'mineen or, Imam Sadiq or, like Allama Tabatabai, and I am going to respect him, that's not a big thing. If my husband is a normal, average person, but for the sake of Allah, still I show respect to my husband, especially before children. That's then going to be my jihad. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "La yahillu laha an tanzura ila wajhihi nadrata mughdibah or nadratan mughdibah." Wife should not look in a very angry way at her husband. The same, of course, husband the same, but we said this week we are talking about women, about wife. Maybe you say, I didn't say anything bad. I didn't do anything bad. I didn't say anything bad. But looking is also an action. Sometimes, the way you look is like a bullet, which can never, be healed. So we have to be careful even about the way we look at each other. Actually, maybe during the day, we speak 1 hour maximum with each other, yeah? Nowadays, even to speak 1 hour is not that much possible. But we look at each other maybe a few hours. Even if you are doing other things, you are looking at each other, yeah? So, therefore, it's very important to be careful about the way you look at each other. You should look at each other with the way that shows respect, appreciation, kindness, even if you are not talking. And what's the reward for a lady who is kind, is caring towards her husband? You remember we had the reward about a man that helps his wife. You remember what Rasulullah said to Amir al-Mu'mineen about a person who helps his wife. Now, about a woman who does something for her husband. ما من امرأة تسقي زوجها شربة من ماء. No woman gives a cup of water or drink to her husband. إلا كان خيرا لها من عبادة سنة. It's better than 1 year of ibadah. صيام نهارها وقيام ليلها. 1 year ibadah. We had similar expressions before, of course. The amount was, there are some details which are different, like was about piece of hair. 1 year that in the night you do tahajjud and the day you do fasting, not just normal 1 year. وَيَبْنِ اللَّهُ لَهَا بِكُلِّ شَرْبَةٍ تَسْقِي زَوْجَهَا مَدِينَةً فِي الْجَنَّةِ. With every cup of water that she gives to her husband, Allah would make a city for her in heaven. وَغَفَرَ لَهَا سِتِّينَ خَطِيئَةً, and would forgive 60 of her sins. Unfortunately, because we don't, take these things seriously, we think it's exaggeration, it cannot be true, then we may lose it. Yeah, sometimes there is a big offer, big bargain, you say it cannot be true, okay, you are going to miss it. Inshallah, Allah is generous, and even if you don't take it seriously, He would give you a steal. But do it as much as you can. In another hadith, Rasulullah said, أَيُّمَا امْرَأَةٍ خَدَمَتْ زَوْجَهَا سَبْعَةَ أَيَّامٍ. Any wife who helps her husband 7 days. Maybe 7 days means 7 days a week, or maybe 7 days in the life. I think it must be 7 days a week, although in the translation just says 7 days. أغلق الله عليها سبعة أبواب. سبعة أبواب النيران. 7 gates of Jahannam will be closed to this woman. وفتح لها أبواب الجنان الثمانية. And Allah will open for this lady 8 gates of heaven. So 7 gates, because Jahannam has 7 gates and heaven has 8. This is another sign of mercy of Allah, that for heaven there is more gate. So 7 gates of hell will be closed, 8 gates of heaven will be open to her. تَدْخُلُ مِنْ أَيِّهَا شَاءَتْ. She can enter from any gate of heaven. Lady Salama, we have Lady Salama, who is very nice lady, great, respect we give to her. She asked Rasulullah about the merits of helping your spouse. And فضل النساء في خدمة أزواجهن. If they do something for their husband, what's the merit? Rasulullah said, according to this hadith, which is in Amali by Sheikh Tusi, أيما امرأة رفعت من بيت زوجها شيئا من موضع إلى موضع تريد به صلاحا إلا نظر الله إليها. If you do a little thing in the house to improve the condition of the house, you just, for example, take this subject, this furniture, put it there, I don't know, or make the house better, or clean or improve. Or if you do something like this, Allah will look at that lady. Means favorably. وَمَنْ نَظَرَ اللَّهُ إِلَيْهِ لَمْ يُعَذِّبْهُ. And if Allah looks at someone, Allah would not punish them. So, working at home, being a housewife, or working outside but still doing some works at home, should never be underestimated. This is your ibadah, this is your jihad, this is your opportunity, golden opportunity. Again, I repeat, this doesn't mean that husband is better. Husband deserves this. You are doing for the sake of Allah, for the sake of family. Don't say to your husband that I don't do it for you. No, be diplomatic. But between you and Allah, you must know this is not for your husband, so that if one day he doesn't appreciate, say, oh, I have wasted my life because I did this for my husband. You do it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you are not going to lose. Even if God forbids, you realize your husband, for example, is not good, you are not losing. You are doing for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Imam Baqir alayhi salam said, لا شفيع للمرأة أنجح عند ربها من رضا زوجها. There is no intercessor greater for a woman than the pleasure of her husband. If husband is pleased and happy, that's the best. She doesn't need any other, maybe shafi. وَلَمَّا مَاتَتْ فَاطِمَةُ عَلَيْهَا السَّلَامُ. Imam Baqir says, when Lady Fatima passed away, قَامَ عَلَيْهَا أَمِيرُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. Amir al-Mu'mineen stood next to the body of the lady and said, Allahumma inni radin an ibnati nabiyyik. Oh Allah, I am pleased with the daughter of your prophet. Yeah? This is a great testimony that if you can have that your husband, no matter how good, your husband can be like Amir al-Mu'minin, can be someone else, but what is important is if you manage to get the pleasure of your husband, that's a great achievement. And if your husband is a bad person, that's even greater achievement, that you have managed to please someone who is not reasonable. Of course, not by doing haram, not by doing things which are, damaging your iman, but a matter of sacrificing your comfort, convenience, being kind, being caring, so that you maintain this relation. And we have this famous hadith, Jihadul mar'ati husnul taba'ul li zawjiha, in Al-Kafi, that this is the jihad for women to be a good wife. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Thalathun minan nisa yarfa'ullahu anhunna azab al-qabr." There are three groups of women that Allah would not have any punishment for them in barzakh. وَيَكُونُ مَحْشَرُهُنَّ مَعَ فَاطِمَةٍ بِنْتِ مُحَمَّدٍ صلى الله عليه وسلم. So this is about their barzakh. And then on the day of judgment, they will be resurrected with Lady Fatima. Who are these three groups of women? امرأة صبرت على غيرة زوجها. The first group, a wife who has been patient with the غيرة of her husband. غيرة, kind of, we call it protective jealousy that men have towards their wife or mother or sister. Sometimes this can become too much. To some extent it's good, غيرة. But sometimes it becomes too much. This man is, suspicious or whatever, says don't talk to this. Sometimes it becomes too much and he has no right to do this. But you are patient as much as possible. Then you would be one of those three groups of women that in barzakh you have no problem and you will be resurrected with Lady Fatima. What other choice you have? You want to fight all the time with your husband and, you sacrifice your convenience. وَامْرَأَةٌ صَبَرَتْ عَلَى سُوءِ خُلْقِ زَوْجِهَا. The second group, a woman who has been patient with bad temper, bad akhlaq of her husband. Husband would be in difficult situation, barzakh. You remember the story we said about the companion? He's in a bad situation in barzakh, but you were patient with his bad akhlaq. You are going to be in good condition in barzakh and will be resurrected with Lady Fatima. So we should try to be the patient one, not the one who is annoying. Yes? In dunya, people think, I am losing. I am the patient one. This person does what he wants. I am losing. No. He is losing. You are not losing. وَامْرَأَةٌ وَهَبَتْ صَدَاقَهَا لِزَوْجِهَا يُعْطِ اللَّهُ تَعَالَى كُلَّ وَاحِدَةٍ مِّنْهُنَّ ثَوَابَ أَلْفِ شَهِيدٍ. The third group is a woman who gives her dowry to her husband. The husband maybe cannot pay the dowry. Of course, this is a debt, and every person must make sure that they give the debt. We had hadith before, remember, we had very severely warning hadith about a man who doesn't give dowry to his wife. But from your side, you have all the right to demand it. But if you see your husband doesn't have, so you can be flexible. So these are three groups of women that In Barzakh, they have no punishment, and they will be resurrected with Lady Fatima, inshallah. And then Hadith says, Allah gives every one of these women the reward of 1,000 martyrs. In my humorous interpretation, this means that this man has killed you 1,000 times. But you remain patient. This is your reward. You will be given reward of 1,000 martyrs. You know how much we love a person who gives his life to Allah to protect, Islam, protect family, protect country, protect innocent people. One martyr, but imagine 1,000 martyrs. One reason for this is because martyr give one life once. This person has to every day. Plus, martyrs receive lots of recognition. Yeah, their family, but no one gives that much recognition to this woman, except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and true mu'mineen. Most of people say, maybe even other ladies say, you are, wasting your life. Why you are patient with this man? Just leave this man. Then we have a hadith about both men and women being careful not to annoy their spouse. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, وَمَنْ كَانَتْ لَهُ إِمْرَأَةٌ تُؤْذِيهِ. If someone has a wife that annoys him, لَمْ يَقْبَلِ اللَّهُ صَلَاتَهَا وَلَا حَسَنَةً مِنْ عَمَلًا. If wife annoys her husband, her salat would not be accepted. Her good deeds would not be accepted. حَتَّى تُعِينَهُ وَتُرْضِيَهُ. Unless she helps him and make sure that he's pleased. وَإِنْ صَامَتِ الدَّهْرُ وَقَامَتْ وَاعْتَقَتِ الرِّقَابِ وَأَنْفَقَتِ الْأَمْوَالِ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. Even if fast all her life and does Salatul Layl all the night, free slaves, spends money in this, for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if annoys her husband, it's not going to be useful. And then Rasulullah said, وَعَلَى الرَّجُلِ مِثْلُ ذَلِكَ الْوِذْرِ وَالْعَذَابِ. The same is for man. If a man is, annoying his wife, even if he fasts every day, does Salatul Layl, spends all money for charity, free slaves, Allah is not going to accept. So husband and wife are at a very, delicate situation. They can be kind and respectful to each other and gain a lot, or they can keep annoying each other and lose a lot. One of the two. Either you gain a lot or you lose a lot. We, of course, like any other case, the last point he mentioned is that there is a border, there is a limit. When we say you have to be kind, to be patient, it is with a limit. Maybe at certain point, this man is not a bright man to live with anymore, or maybe from beginning you didn't know. But who can decide this? Someone who is Islamically aware of all these steps and how much family life is important, how much we have to be patient, how much we have to sacrifice for marriage. Then a time may come that we say, okay, either you have to divorce, or for example, with this particular request you don't need to listen to, or you don't need to please him with this particular thing. But This is something that only a person who is fully observing all levels can say. It's not an easy decision. Another thing is that, as we said about men, that they have to be careful about needs of their wife, and to present themselves in a nice way. Also, a wife should be careful about the needs of the husband, and would not ignore the needs of the husband, like sexual needs or whatever, but of course, again, with all the other teachings of Islam. Inshallah, next session we will talk about brothers and sisters. We already talked about parents and children, husband and wife. Inshallah, next week we will talk about brothers and sisters. May Allah, inshallah, protect our families and make our families, inshallah, very strong, very happy, united, and away from any calamities of Akhir al-Zaman. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.